Hi everybody, and welcome to the Civitas Destinations webinar. It's on the subject of mobility management and behaviour change and the successful approaches serving tourists and residents. My name is Paul Curtis. I'm really happy to moderate this panel discussion today. Just as a quick introduction to the project, Civitas Destinations, 4-year project. We're coming to the end of that project now. It's been really all about integrating sustainable tourism and mobility strategies through dozens and dozens of innovative measures across 6 European islands. And one of these sets of solutions is in the theme of, has been in the theme of mobility management and behaviour change. And this webinar is really going to look at some of those achievements in this theme. And sort of like a running theme throughout this is that we've seen the sort of win-win solutions for both tourism stakeholders and also transport stakeholders. And this is really one of the key findings that we have from the project. And we do feel that a lot of these solutions are transferable to other cities, tourist towns and cities across Europe. So we hope you'll find it interesting. These are our illustrious presenters, our participants, representing 6 demonstration sites in the project. I'm the moderator, and thanks to CPMR for organising the workshop. So first of all, we're going to pass over to Crete and to the town of Rethymno, beautiful town of Rethymno. And we're going to hear from Thomas, who works for the Rethymno municipality. And Thomas, in Rethymno, you've delivered 2 really eye-catching schemes, the shared e-bike and e-scooter schemes. They're really quite fashionable at the moment. You see them in many towns. But can you tell us what were the key elements to delivering these micro mobility schemes? You know, how are they financed, and also who are the stakeholders that you needed to engage to set these schemes up?
Yes, indeed, in Rethymno we are very proud about the new services we have developed about the micromobility, especially the e-bike sharing system and the e-scooter system. Of course, this is something that it is easier said than done. In Rethymno, Rethymno is a very small city with a very high seasonal fluctuation. We have a population of about 50,000 residents, but in 5 months time during the touristic season, this multiplies by many. We receive about 500,000 tourists and about 1.5 million visitors in daily cruises or daily trips. So it is not easy to plan and develop a service all year around. In the past, we had tried to develop similar services in municipal systems, which had no success. So this time we wanted to have something different, to manage to involve the private sector and try to build something better. Of course, this is not easy. With the help of the Sustainable Mobility Agency that we had uptake through the Destinations project, we wanted to actively engage the stakeholders. And I believe this was one of the key success factors in order to achieve those services. Because when you manage to put all the stakeholders in one table to discuss, to find the problems and find all the potential, then things get better. And more important is that the private companies can understand that there is a strong political will and there is a common vision, a common strategy, and they can work. Because, of course, when you implicate private companies, there is a good service, but you also need to have a profit. So in Rethymno, we had all the stakeholders in multiple consultations. We had extensive bilateral meetings with public authorities, with the public transport companies, with mobility service providers, with hoteliers, touristic agencies, so that we could state all the problems and see the potential and the solution we would like to achieve. Another thing is the regulation. There is a lack of regulations in Greece about micromobility. So we wanted to make sure that the rules of the game was very clear to everyone. After that, things eventually became very easy, because once we had a very strong vision, a common vision and a common strategy, then in the call of interest that we published for the potential investors to come and set up the new services, there was a really great interest from many companies. And although in the beginning we were thinking that we were about to set up a small service, about 30 bikes in a bike sharing system, we managed to have more than 300 electric bike sharing system. And in 2 months' time, there was a new service with another e-scooter system all around the city. A service that became very popular, not only for tourists, but also for residents. And now, all year around, we managed to see plenty of e-bikes and e-scooters in our city. So I guess with a lot of effort, and most of all with great consultation and setting up a common vision and a common strategy, we succeeded to make a win-win situation for both the municipality, the residents, and of course the private companies that invested in REF.
That's really fantastic, and yeah, I was so impressed with the scale of the numbers of the e-bikes and e-scooters, and it seems from what you're saying that having the e-bike scheme on the ground, it helped to attract then the e-scooter scheme. But the step-by-step process where you put in, ensure the regulations allowed, you had the political commitment, and that also must have attracted the private investors, the private mobility operators. You mentioned that it was used by tourists and residents, both the e-scooters and the e-bikes. Do you have any more sort of feedback from the users, or the most popular journey types?
Well, the users love it, both residents, as I told, and visitors. Especially the e-scooters are now very popular, because in the beginning it was something like a fun trip to go around to like a play, but at the end it has developed that it is a means of transportation. They use the e-bikes and mostly the e-scooters to commute from one side of the city to the other, from the beach to the historic center. So for us nowadays, it has become a new means of transport around the city.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Thomas. And as you said, a good example of a win-win solution for both the tourist and transport stakeholders. We're going to thanks for that, and we'll come back later if we have time. But we're going to keep moving, and we're going to pass over to Elba now and to Federica. Federica works for Portofolio on the beautiful islands of Elba. Hi, Federica. And we were talking there about e-bikes and e-scooters. In Elba, there was a link with the e-bikes service that you've introduced into hotels to directly target tourists and sort of try and change mobility behavior of hotel guests directly. Can you tell us how you actually engaged hotels in the first place to participate in this scheme?
Hi, Paolo. Well, in Elba, we involved hoteliers and campsite owners by proposing them to together enhance some mobility services that would be of interest of their guests and could fit their transport needs. Of course, these mobility services had to be sustainable and also ecological, aiming at discouraging the use of private cars in order to reduce traffic congestions and parking problems that usually occur in the island on summer. And at the beginning, in order to be more aware about needs and desires in terms of tourist mobility at the local level, we interviewed hoteliers and collected opinions and suggestions on this issue. And so we set up the measure taking into consideration those results, and concretely we implemented two main actions. So first of all, we supported hoteliers and campsite owners with the activation of a long-term rental of electric bikes, paying half price and also covering the activation and transport costs. In total, we involved 11 accommodation facilities and rented 40 electric bikes. Furthermore, in cooperation with the local public transport operator TTT North, we established the possibility for some hotels to purchase the Erba card. This is the seasonal bus ticket of 1 day or 6 days on consignment. That means with zero risk of economic loss for them. And thanks to this action and also to a short training course for front desk personnel, the hotel receptions practically assumed the function of real ticket offices for public transport, because they could provide correct information and tickets to tourists, thus solving the problem for EMBA of not having enough ticket retailers scattered throughout the territory. In addition, about the hoteliers' involvement, I can add that we facilitated their participation, trying to keep their economic commitment low, so they could experiment new actions with minor risk. And also we supported them with the organizational and administrative commitment that, especially on summer, that can be very difficult to manage.
That's brilliant. Yeah, really well organized approach there. And in terms of the hotel guests, the tourists, what did they think of the scheme? Did they like using the bikes, for example?
Yes, of course. In general, the tourist response, the tourists, they appreciated the measure very much, because they could find directly on the hotel the mobility service, and also for their convenience. In fact, to make an example, we had an increase in the sale of the Elba card, but I can add that the measure was appreciated also by our stakeholder, because, for example, in the case of the electric bicycle, they were able to test whether this service was suitable or not for their target customer or for their own hotel, taking into consideration, for example, the geographical location with respect to busy roads and places of interest and so on. And thanks to this experience, they eventually could decide for a purchase of e-bikes in the future.
Yeah, that's a really nice touch, I think. And so overall, how would you sort of describe the win-win approach of transport and tourist stakeholders in this scheme?
Yes, we believe that the measure outlines a win-win approach. That regarding the long-term rental of e-bikes, it was immediately evident, even during the preliminary meeting with stakeholders, aimed at describing the measure and promoting the hoteliers' participation. We explained them that the cost sharing would have meant also wide involvement of accommodation facilities, and consequently bigger implementation of good practice. In fact, by covering only part of the expenses instead of paying for the full rental cost, we were able to involve a greater number of accommodation facilities. For what concerns the Erba card, we experimented a very wide advantage. On one hand, the public transport operator has partially solved the lack of ticket offices throughout the territory, thanks to the receptionist support. And the hotels have obtained greater satisfaction from their guests and strengthened their supportive and trustworthy role for tourists. And finally, the collective positive advantage is the promotion of the use of public transport, especially on summer when many traffic pollution and parking problems occur. So in the end, we can say that we have all, municipalities, the hotels and public transport operator, we all contributed making our territories more livable.
Okay, thanks, Federica, for that. Really, really interesting. We're going to keep moving, and next we're going to move on to Malta. And our colleagues there at Transport Malta will speak to Ritian. And in Malta, you also were very active in engaging the hotel industry as part of your schemes, but you approached it in a slightly different way, sort of more at the management level, incentivizing them, for example, to improve sustainable policies and services. And one of these activities was the Green Mobility Hotel Award. Could you firstly tell us a bit more about the award itself?
Hi, Paul. Yes, that's right. So in Malta, Transport Malta, together with the Ministry of Tourism, we piloted the Green Mobility Hotel Award and Labelling Scheme. Now, this pilot initiative is something which is innovative for Malta, and it focused on the operational practices within the hotel industry, where we encourage green mobility, both with tourists, with the hotel employees, and also with the other stakeholders who service the hotel industry. Now, to give you an introduction, this measure was piloted in the Valletta region. The Valletta region is the most congested hub in Malta, and it also hosts the main gateways to the island, where we have the airport, the cruise liner terminal, and the ferry service which connects Malta to Sicily. So it is very touristic and it's very congested, and we wanted to do something to reduce the traffic in this part of the island. Now, as we started this measure, collaborating with the Ministry of Tourism and the Malta Hotels and Restaurants Association. So as a starting point, we contacted all hotels registered within this region, and we introduced the project. So that was the first stage. I think the most important aspect of this measure was this collaboration and keeping the stakeholders on board from the very beginning of the project. So as in preparation for this award, we had 2 workshops where we introduced the measure, what we are expecting of the measure, the aims, and we also introduced another innovative aspect, which was the Green Mobility Plan. Now, most hotels in Malta do not have this. We're still gearing up for green tourism. So we introduced this plan, and we also assisted hotels with developing this plan. So apart from these workshops, we then went on to one-to-one meetings with hoteliers to help them devise their plan, and also to aid with the application progress to reduce the bureaucratic aspect of the application. So that was the first part. Through this measure, we funded aspects related to green mobility. So we funded 2 measures. One of them was an individual hotel, the other was a partnership of 2 hotels. Electric vehicles were purchased, and these were used by the hotel both for its service, for the transport of its employees, and also for the transport of tourists. So the hotels reduced their cost as they shifted from conventional vehicles to green electric vehicles. So that's one aspect. The other measure that was awarded was the installation of bicycle racks and other ancillary facilities. So we had helmets made available and lockers made available for tourists. So at the hotel site, they had cycling facilities made available for them. This also in line with Transport Malta's encouragement of cycling as a mode of transport.
That's really good. And so it seems that the hotel industry saw the win-win benefit of promoting sustainable transport in their hotels and to their guests. So I guess they saw well, yes, they might see an environmental objective, but they probably also saw a business objective of reaching out to more guests, which would have a financial benefit to the hotels. Do you think?
Yes, that's right. So the win-win situation from the hotel side, as you said, was promoting itself as a more sustainable hotel, but also there was the aspect of cost, where the hotel reduced its cost. The electric van replaced the conventionally fueled vehicle, which was before used by the hotel. So there was a cost element to that. And also the hotel's employee and the local community saw this with a scope of maximizing sustainable and alternative transport modes. So we had a larger impact with this measure, not just with the hotel, but also with the local community and the general public, which has also been encouraged to consider green transportation.
Yeah, wonderful. And I think that those are sort of strong messages that we can transfer to other tourist towns across Europe. Thank you, Ritian. Off we go now to the lovely island of Madeira, and to Barbara, who works for the tourism board there. And we're going to stick with the theme of hotels, but also other businesses. And in Madeira, you also work very closely with hotels and the wider tourist industry, Barbara. How did you establish joint partnerships with the tourist industry and sort of deliver win-win models?
Hi, Paul. So here in Madeira, we had this strategy built that we would start with the tour operators and then moving on to businesses. And at the end, we would go to the final consumers. So actually, by explaining and promoting sustainable mobility first to tour operators and then to the businesses, they were allowed to explain to the final consumer in a better way what to expect and what to have. So at the end, we had campaigns for the final consumers, such a video for sustainable mobility that we had around the city, as well as postcards that we offered our tourists at the tourism offices, so they would have this image from Madeira, sending back home to their loved ones, but also promoting mobility, the sustainable mobility. So why this was a win-win for the hoteliers? Because we were offering them a way to promote this sustainable mobility inside the hotels, within their staff. They were able to understand and would sell this to their customers and to their guests in a better way. This was, in fact, promoting inside the hotel and outside the hotel. They were offering their guests a new experience, and this was one of the main factors that they were very receptive to this idea. Besides the hotels, as you said, we also had other kind of businesses that were related to tourism, and not only. So a cross-sector initiative. They would sell other packages to tourists, but also the public transport tickets. It was a way that we, as someone said before, having more retailers being able to offer these tickets around the island, and not only in a specific place. So it was very achievable, so they could get anywhere they would like, the tourists, of course. It was, of course, when you offer this kind of services everywhere in the island, they would get a much better experience, and that was also our goal.
Yeah, no, lovely. And I think we saw in some of the other sites as well this, the win-win outcome of, in this case, more retailers selling public transport tickets. So it's more easy for residents and tourists to access the public transport network. Ultimately, that's good for the public transport companies because it should increase patronage, and it's good for the retailers because people are going into their shops and maybe they'll buy some extra goods whilst they're doing it.
Exactly.
And overall, from the hotelier's perspective, again, I suppose they saw the win-win because they're offering new experiences to their guests. Can you see this something continuing in the future?
Oh, definitely. We actually had we targeted this to the hotels and other businesses, So this is public transport we're talking about, but in fact, also taxi services, when they noticed about this public transport which was going around, also them would contact hotels and offering this kind of service, because we know that taxis have some service, but other kinds of services could be offered, and they saw a good business that they could have here, and also providing their customers with something else. So definitely, I think we should maintain and turn this a little bit wider, of course.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Barbara. We're going to keep moving, and now we're going to move to Limassol and to Christina, who works for the Limassol Tourism Board. And yet again, we saw lots of good examples of multi-sector stakeholder engagement, participation in a lot of your schemes, Christina. In your case, sort of hotels, municipalities, mobility operators. Which techniques did you use in Limassol to motivate cross-sector stakeholder participation? Because in some cases, these stakeholders just haven't worked together before. So you've obviously done something right.
Hello, Paul. At this point, I would like to present our experience for motivating stakeholders' participation for sustainable tourist mobility. The whole idea of our method is to promote to the different businesses and authorities the green label brand, which is nothing else than a particular sign that distinguishes the stakeholders' commitment to support and promote sustainable mobility and the tourist mobility card, of course. Therefore, the local authorities and tourist businesses become ambassadors of sustainable mobility initiatives. The concept is to enhance tourism and leisure transport through the implementation of a tourist mobility card that was supported by Greek label partners. The use of this tourist mobility card is aiming to increase the number of leisure trips with the use of sustainable mobility modes among tourists and locals. And the green label is awarded to hotels that promote sustainable mobility, of course. The tourist mobility card enables visitors and locals to buy one ticket for all their public transport transfers, both urban and rural, and at the same time they can have discounts to visit point of interest in Limassol city and to use bike sharing. Our first step was to create a network and to organize face-to-face meetings with local and national authorities like municipalities, communities, the Deputy Ministry of Tourism, the Ministry of Transport, and local businesses, of course, like hotels, museums, thematic parks, public transport company in Limassol, and bike sharing company in Limassol. In order to introduce our green label idea and to give them incentives to improve their services and infrastructures for promoting sustainable mobility modes to their clients. Surprisingly, the interest of our stakeholders was great. At those meetings, we had to present them the destination project to inform them about the tools that they can use in order to reach better results with the Green Label Award. With this way, they can receive numerous benefits. In total, 22 businesses offer discounts for the adoption of the mobility card, and 16 hotels participated to promote sustainable ways of transport and, of course, mobility card. Hoteliers were committed to encourage the use of sustainable mobility modes to offer bike rentals, bike sharing, and bike excursion options at the hotel, to share links with information, to offer promotional material with information for sustainable leisure trips, and promoting mobility application and bike sharing. And our company, the Limassol Tourism Company, was from the beginning to give support with information and promotional material to all stakeholders. A brochure was designed for the mobility card that includes all discounts for the users, flags designed and distributed to the hotels that participated to the Green Label award ceremony. Trophies were given also to the awarded ceremony, with the presence of journalists, bloggers, mayors, representatives of the Deputy Ministry of Tourism, and the Ministry of Transport, and another 100 participants. The success to attract partners was due to a combined approach of social media, radio, publicity, articles in locals and national magazines.
Christina, your line's not too good, so I'm going to jump in. I'm afraid. I mean, that's overall. I mean, it's such a good example, and I remember you telling me that in a way that there was a sort of competition now between hotels, and they're really clamoring to get this green label so that they sort of still look good against their competitors. And it was really good that you got so many businesses involved also offering discounts, and through the mobility card, just making it a lot more convenient for guests to use sustainable options. I'm gonna move on because the line's not too good, but thank you, Christina, and we're gonna move on now to last but not least to Las Palmas de Gran Canaria, and to Antonio, our colleague there who works for Guaguas Municipales. And in Las Palmas, you've targeted local businesses also, just like in Limassol, but you targeted them in a different way, sort of as a way of incentivizing mobility behavior. And this has been through a green credits loyalty scheme. Could you describe that green credits loyalty scheme, and how it aims to foster sustainable mobility? Antonio.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, in Las Palmas de Gran Canaria, the urban public transport company has been working to introduce a loyalty system scheme to encourage citizens and visitors to adopt more sustainable lifestyle patterns by offering them rewards. In this case, points are accumulated as rewards for using public transport, and after that, the points can be changed to acquire products or service at a variety of places, such as shops, museums, outdoor activities, or even theaters. Due to the loyalty system scheme is an innovative approach to attract citizens and visitors towards sustainable modes of transport, as well as it will boost the local economy by pushing users to purchase products and services at a variety of places. The development of this measure took part within the Civitas Destination Business Development session. Technical, financial, and commercial issues were discussed. It is about a win-win strategy among the urban public transport company and the local commerce and businesses. Has a final objective, that is to get a better, a cleaner, and a friendlier city. The way this system works is related with the contactless smart card that the urban public transport has, and that allow customers to pay the urban public transport trips. Thanks that the data of this smart card can be stored in a database and can be also easily consulted, Guaguas Municipales developed a web page where our customers can check the number of points they have already accumulated and also they can choose the discounts, the promotion, or the gift that are available for the amount of points that they have. So this is the way the system works.
Fantastic.
And, yes?
Sorry, I was just going to say, and how have you attracted local businesses to the scheme? Obviously, they must see a benefit to them, potentially financially, but also sustainability wise. Yeah, any key advice on how to win the participation of local businesses?
Yes, you have to take into account that the Guaguas municipality is a company that has over 38 million passengers a year, and thanks to its social media communication strategy, where the community manager combines information and humor, Guaguas municipality is a company is a reference in the island. So managing these figures, we have convinced local businesses and commerce, especially those ones that are fully aware about the importance of urban sustainability, that being related with the urban public transport company will help them to have a higher visibility. To sum up, the win-win strategy is very simple. Guaguas municipalities, through its communication channels, facilitate visibility to local commerce that are taking part in the loyalty system scheme, while the local businesses and commerce offer exclusive discounts, promotion and gift to urban public transport customers. This win-win situation benefits, of course, residents and visitors, as put them in touch with the local businesses to experience the daily city lifestyle with very attractive discounts and promotion. You have to take into account that these discounts will be offered only for public transport customers. So this is the win-win strategy.
That's great, isn't it? It's really incentivizing people to use public transport because only they get the discounts. It's a really nice scheme. I think that's transferable to other locations as well. Thank you, Antonio, for that. So, I mean, really, this has just been a bit of a taster of the mobility management behavior change schemes that have been implemented in destinations. And hopefully it does show how we've successfully forged new relationships between various stakeholders, in many cases for the very first time. And you've seen hopefully a lot of these win-win outcomes for these stakeholders who share common cross-sector interests. I think that's more important than ever than in meeting economic growth and climate change objectives. And we think a lot of these solutions are very much transferable to other towns across Europe that have large tourist numbers coming to them during the year. So I invite everybody to go to the destinations platform. The link is there. We have lots more information, detailed information, reports and downloads there. So please do check that out, and we look forward to hearing from you there. I'd just like to thank our panelists for their time and for their interesting discussions, and wish everybody well in your endeavours in the future. So it's goodbye from me and from the rest of the destinations team. Thank you.